Chapter 18 Mother. The Zakari warriors Yamura and Inyana clash across the city, leaving a growing backdrop of devastation. Buildings are reduced to rubble, cars explode, impact craters pockmark the streets, and geysers of water spray wildly into the air from burst pipes. Sirens ring through the air, but none can get close enough to the battle without being drawn in. A police helicopter attempts to get to a view of the almost apocalyptic battle, but it's downed in a fiery blaze due to the waves of Inyana's wind-based magic. Battling faster than most eyes can follow, Yamura and Inyana trade punches and kicks in fractions of a second, break apart, then re-engage for another go. The pattern repeats over and over again, causing increased destruction all around. The concussion force created from each strike is astronomical. Yamura blocks a punch from Inyana with his forearm, but the force vibrates through him and causes a building behind him to collapse. He counters it with a left hook that Inyana blocks with her own forearm. A similar concussion force vibrates through Inyana and splits the pavement behind her. Aginestra! Both siblings shout in unison, unleashing their fiery magic. The blasts collide, knocking both Zakari back. Inyana and Yamura run at each other again, but this time the elder Zakari's edge becomes more apparent as the battle goes on. Inyana punches Yamura in the face and immediately grabs him by an arm, swinging her brother through a brick wall. As Yamura tumbles through the debris, Inyana unleashes a magical tornado to tear the building apart. Yamura leaps back from the winds, but Inyana intercepts him and punches him down into the side of a car. Rolling into a crouch, Yamura is unable to defend in time as Inyana kicks him in the ribs and into the air. Sharanga! Inyana screams, pelting her brother with a barrage of magical energy blasts. Yamura is propelled into the distance, knocked through the windows of several buildings before landing atop the roof of a moving vehicle. A line of cars attempt to escape the city, caught in heavy traffic. The citizens begin abandoning their vehicles in a panic, as Inyana hovers overhead. You have chosen to die with humanity, brother. I will joyfully grant this request. Inyana consumes the entire area in a brilliant inferno of magical fire. The cars begin to detonate one by one until several city blocks are swallowed by the explosions. Yamura crawls from the smoke, coughing and badly burnt. Charred bones and ash are all that remain of hundreds of human lives, snuffed out in an instant by the mad Zakari queen. Yamura tries to stand, but Inyana drops down and quickly delivers several fast body blows, before grabbing her brother by the face and hurling him across town. The force of the winds around Yamura make it difficult for him to breathe, and he struggles to gain his bearings before crashing against the windshield of a passenger train. Inyana rushes to the front of the train, firing a burst of energy into Yamura and consuming both him and the train in a large explosion. You should have continued to hide from me, Inyana says. Openly challenging me is nothing less than suicidal. Had I wanted, I could have killed you 1,000 times over by now. Then why have you not ended this? Yamura coughs, standing up from the wreckage. An energy tattoo of Seal Asilair on his right forearm dissolves to keep the Zakari from succumbing to his internal injuries. Because you have not earned the release of death. You must continue to suffer for the pain you caused me. I will end your life only when I know that I have broken your spirit as well as your body. You will regret that, sister, Yamura says. So long as I draw breath, there exists a chance of my victory. Inyana rushes Yamura faster than he can react and drives a fist deep into his gut. Yamura doubles over in pain, vomiting blood and saliva. There is zero chance of victory for you, brother. The fact that you still have hope means that I have not broken you enough. Inyana punches Yamura in the face, sending him crashing down into the street. The impact creates a deep crater, and the force sends out a shockwave that topples more buildings, throws vehicles out like toys, sends screaming people airborne, only to be splattered against the walls of buildings like insects. Yamura tries to stand, but Inyana batters him with hard lefts and rights before planting him face down and motionless. Have you had enough? Inyana asks, standing on Yamura's back. I want you to beg for me to release you from your suffering. Ymir conjures a black shard of energy and condenses it in his hand, attempting to stab his sister in the leg. Faster and still having more stamina, Inyana is able to kick Ymira's arm and cause him to lose focus and the energy shard. Inyana follows up with another kick, this one to the face. Inyana reaches down, grabbing Ymira by the hair, and throwing him through the ground floor of the nearest still-standing building. Ymira's body crashes through the building's support beams, bringing it down into another pair of office towers. Ymira lifts a metal beam off himself, still concealed beneath the rubble of the collapsed edifices. This isn't going well, Jake says. We're still alive, Ymira replies. Jake waits, but Ymira has nothing to add to his statement. Is that the best we can hope for at this point? Glad to still be alive? Look around you, Ymira shouts. She is wrecking this city and toying with us. Inyana is not fighting us with anywhere near her full strength, yet we are barely clinging to life. So what? Do you want to just give up and ask to die like she wants? Shut up, Ymira growls, limping towards a ray of sunlight, peering down into the rubble. You know better than to say such stupid things. As Ymira reaches the light, Inyana's hand pierces the rubble and grabs her brother by the throat. Inyana throws Ymira back onto the street, where he skids along the rocky debris on his side. Lifting himself onto his hands and knees, Inyana quickly kicks Ymira in the ribs and punches down into the back of his skull. The blow drives Ymira's face into the ground, busting open his nose and lips. Inyana lifts Ymira by an arm, blood dripping steadily from the younger Sakari's face. She tosses Ymira to the side as if he were garbage. Do you care about these creatures? Inyana asks. Is that why you're still fighting me? What is it that is keeping you going? She snaps her fingers, calling forth dozens of humans, all entranced by Badari al-Controle. What would you do if I killed these humans right now? Who do you think you're talking to? Ymir growls. My hatred of you implies no compassion for the humans. Oh, then this would not upset you? Inyana commands several of the humans to take their heads into their hands and violently break their own necks. Ymir tenses, grinding his teeth together in fury. I see that got some reaction out of you, but not quite enough. She commands the humans to climb to the top of the nearest standing building and leap to their deaths one by one. Ymir lunges with a growl and throws a furious left hook. Inyana dodges the attack and counters with a right jab to the face. As his head is rocked back, Inyana hits Ymir with two more quick rights and a hard left hook. Ymir staggers back but attempts a sluggish and telegraphed left hook of his own. Inyana ducks beneath the blow and connects with an uppercut to the gut, immediately followed by a left hook to the face. The elder Sakari does not let up, hitting her brother with a right jab to the gut before using the same arm to hit him in the nose. Ymir tries to defend, but Inyana slaps his hands downward and machine guns him with four rapidly fired jabs to the face, followed by another gut uppercut, a left hook and right hook combo to the face, and an uppercut to the chin that causes Ymir to drop limply to his knees before collapsing to his face. Ymir does not move for what seems like hours, and Inyana wonders if she accidentally killed her brother already. Ymir coughs up blood, regaining consciousness. Ah, there you are. I was starting to worry, Inyana says with a grin. Using her wind magic, she lifts the body of her brother to his feet and forces him to stand against his will. Freeze! A soldier in urban fatigues shouts from behind. Inyana turns to see that a team of over 30 soldiers and 2 Humvees have arrived, and all of their rifles are trained on her. The men are all wearing protective respirators due to the thick clouds of dust and ash in the air. Do not bother us, Inyana growls. This is a family matter. The soldiers open fire, but Inyana whips her wind magic around to send the bullets back into the men in a gruesome, one-sided shootout. Several of the wounded moan in pain and try to crawl towards the Humvees, but Inyana lifts each of them effortlessly with her wind magic and hurls them against buildings, leaving red smears on impact. One of the soldiers in the Humvees hefts an RPG launcher onto his shoulder and unleashes the explosive ordnance at the Sakari. Inyana smiles, stopping the grenade rocket with one hand and turning it back on the vehicle. The RPG explodes, killing both the shooter and the driver. The gunner for the other Humvee moves to the mounted turret, but he is taken out by a burst of hand-fired flame magic. The remaining soldier dives out of the burning Humvee and rolls into a crouch, popping off several rounds from his sidearm, before he too is taken out by a burst of flame magic. 3 fighter jets approach the city in a V formation.
Control, Wyvern Squadron is in the weeds over Totukahachi. Ground ops have failed. Wyvern 1, continue to target area and engage. You are cleared hot.
The jets pass overhead once, consuming the entire area in gunfire. Inyana erects a protective barrier around herself, guarding her from the high-caliber rounds. Annoyances, the Sakari growls, releasing a pulse of energy at the jets.
Break right!
Wyvern 1 screams, veering to the side to try and dodge as Inyana's attack explodes into the building between the jets. Inyana throws her wind magic upward, knocking the jets into a wild spin. As the pilots attempt to correct their steering, the Sakari flings several crescents of wind energy up at them. The port side of Wyvern 3 is severed, and the jet spirals out of control before exploding into the side of a building.
Bug out!
Wyvern 1 screams, regaining his controls and speeding upward. Inyana takes out Wyvern 2 with another round of wind crescents.
Damn it!
Wyvern 1 shouts, turning down and resuming his attack on Inyana.
Wyverns 2 and 3 are down. Target zone is Sierra Hotel.
He fires his missiles, but Inyana uses her winds to divert them into nearby buildings.
Ordnance trashed. I repeat, ordnance trashed. Wyvern 1, retrograde target and disengage. Copy that. Returning to home plate.
The pilot says, ceasing fire and turning up to leave again. Inyana raises her hand to fire again, but Yamura attacks her from behind. Spinning his sister around, Yamura knees her twice in the face and slings Inyana through a wall. Inyana easily recovers and kicks Yamura in the chest, sending him tumbling back. Inyana kicks again, but Yamura pushes her leg aside and moves in close for a knee to the face. Inyana blocks with both hands and strikes 2 times quickly to the chest. Yamura kicks Inyana in the knee, buckling her to the side and throws a hard left hook. The blow draws Inyana's blood, causing the proud Sakari to anger and fight more serious than before. Yamura tries to punch again, but Inyana blocks and elbows him in the face. Yamura shakes off the blow and retaliates with a spinning heel kick, but Inyana blocks him at the knee and kicks the inside of his thigh before punching him in the chest 2 more times. Basa Ia! Yamura shouts, releasing a burst of black energy into Inyana's face. The female Sakari is blasted through the side of a building. Where was this spirit before? Inyana asks, crawling free of the rubble. Yamura's chest heaves and he sweats heavily. Blood continues to drip from his battered body. Do not get so cocky. You are nowhere near close to killing me. Inyana laughs loudly. You may be able to bluff strangers, but I know you, brother. You are teetering on the precipice of death. Your bravado is wasted on me. Yamura conjures a fiery black sword from his aura and runs at Inyana. Inyana uses wind magic to form rapidly spinning edges around her arms and block each of her brother's attacks. Yamura does not relent, swinging again and again in desperation. As Inyana is driven to a knee by the force of one of the swings, she angers and knocks Yamura back with her wind magic. Garuda Nastra! Inyana shouts, sending a violent cyclone of wind magic at Yamura. He tries to cut through the cyclone, but the wind steals all of the oxygen from his flames and disperses his sword. The wind magic propels Yamura through several buildings, toppling them. Inazamastra! Inyana chants, conjuring several bolts of lightning down into the ruins. Yamura dodges the spell and dives for cover behind a large section of stone, firing several black energy blasts. Inyana easily swats the attacks aside and strikes at her brother's hiding place with more lightning. Yamura flees the cover, but this is predicted by Inyana, and she catches him in the open with more magical winds. Inyana holds her brother in the air, violent winds rushing around him so fast that he's unable to breathe. I can defeat you hand to hand, Inyana says. I can defeat you with magic. I can outthink you, outplan you, and outmaneuver you. I am stronger, faster, and have a deeper reservoir of energy. I am more versatile, with many more abilities and techniques at my disposal than you. So tell me, brother, is there anything that you excel at? Ymura struggles to raise a hand, still unable to breathe. What are you trying to do? You only have one style of attack, and flames cannot function within a total air vacuum. My wind is far superior to your black fire in every single way, Inyana taunts. A blue glow surrounds Ymura, creating a pocket of air between his body and Inyana's spell. Utilizing some of Jake's energy, Ymura is able to expel the winds and dive towards his sister with extended claws. Surprised, Inyana is only able to erect a barrier spell in time, rather than counter. What was that just now? Inyana asks, confused. You should have been unable to breathe, let alone overpower my magic like that. Unlike you, we are of one mind in bringing you down. Inyana begins to laugh. How amusing. Weaklings clinging to each other for comfort. You have always been a pathetic loser, brother. The outcome of this battle was decided the day you were born. Fate has always been in my favor. Everything that you have strove for has been pulled out of your reach. Every bright ray of sunshine has been extinguished. That was me. I have made sure to keep you beaten down and defeated. A day where you were not completely miserable was a day that I failed. Your entire existence has been torture by my design. I should have been the one to succeed, Father, not you. And Inyana's aura expands outward, releasing hundreds of energy blasts in all directions. All around the city, massive explosions erupt where Inyana's energy connects. Ymura runs from Inyana, dodging explosive energy blasts coming from behind him. The younger Sakari scales up the side of a toppled building that lies resting at an angle through another building. Glass and stone fly up all around Ymura from the explosions, but he continues to run until a blast hits directly in front of him and causes him to drop down through one of the windows inside. Ymura falls through the inverted office, but a blast follows him inside, exploding beneath him. The force of the explosion briefly stuns Ymura and pushes him with added momentum. Ymura flips forward twice to expend some of the momentum and lands in a crouch atop the felled cabinet before pushing himself in one last dash through an opening in the wall. Back outside, Ymura is immediately greeted by Inyana, hand outstretched only inches from her brother's face. Inyana fires a burst of energy that rockets Ymura down to the street. A cloud of dust and chunks of pavement fly in all directions, as Ymura's body is driven into the ground several inches. Vivaya nostra saupana! Inyana screams, conjuring an enormous cyclone in the shape of an eagle. Throwing her hands downward, the eagle dives towards Ymura. Groaning, Ymura opens his eyes to see the winged eagle closing in on him. Basia Voven! Ymura screams, throwing his own hands up to meet the wind magic. Black flames erupt around the Sakari's body and wrap around his arms until the form of a black dragon's mouth roars from Ymura's hands. The two attacks ignite on contact, flattening dozens of buildings and throwing both Sakari across the city. Ymura coughs up blood and struggles to stand. At the edge of his vision, Inyana stands surrounded by a glowing field of protective energy. Faint cracks are visible along the skin of the energy, but it was able to hold up and protect her from the explosion. Both Sakari throw their hands out, unleashing dozens of blasts of energy at each other. The attacks collide and cancel each other out in small explosions, until Inyana's greater speed and stamina win out, allowing for several of her blasts to break through and reach Ymura. Ymura is knocked through the rubble of a felled building. Inyana visualizes the elemental symbols for wind, fire, and earth. Constructing a wind-based spell, she strengthens its destructive power with fire, and its solidity with earth. Spitting blades of air materialize like buzzsaws in front of Inyana. The wind saws launch, cutting deep trenches in the street below. Ymura dodges the first, which cleanly slices a semi-truck in half. The former general pivots as the wind saw recovers and moves towards him again. Dropping flat, both saws pass over Ymura's back. He shouts in pain as the power of the blades tear apart the flesh on his back. The blades circle back around, and Yamura pushes off the ground to launch himself above the attacks. Aginestra! Takai! Yamura shouts, trying to destroy the wind blades with a stronger fire magic than either his Basaiya or basic Aginestra attacks can provide. Inyana laughs arrogantly as her wind blades emerge unscathed from Yamura's fire. Yamura lands in a crouch and backpedals, firing a rapid succession of fiery blasts to slow down the wind blades. Glancing backwards, Yamura notices a parking garage behind him and turns to run inside for cover. The wind blades pursue, cutting through several cars in the process. You cannot run forever, brother, Inyana laughs. My superior grasp of magic makes me your better in every possible way. The parking garage collapses with a loud crash, shaking the ground violently. Massive clouds of dust rise up and choke the air. Damn it, Jake coughs, lying underneath a large section of an upper floor of the garage. Wedged between several cars, the teen is able to keep himself from being crushed. Yamura, why did you tag out? Jake asks, confused. I was a fool to return, Yamura says with shame. We should have never come back to challenge her. You saved my grandfather. That may not mean much to you, but I'll never forget what you did. It was for naught if Inyana kills us here. I do not see any possible way for us to overcome that gap in power. I cannot keep fighting at this pace. My stamina is almost completely spent. If you cannot buy us some time for me to recover, we'll have no means of defending ourselves against Inyana's next attacks. Do we try to run again? Will that work? Yamura is unsure. He's never engaged in such a serious confrontation with Inyana before. I do not believe she can sense us at the moment, with you in control. If we have a chance to escape, this may be our best opportunity. A ring of fire encircles Jake, preventing his fleeing. Sweat beads down the teen's face from the rising fear and heat. Little human, Inyana purrs. You cannot stay hidden from me. Before Jake can even blink, Inyana closes the distance between them and grabs him by the face. The Sakari pivots, hurling the teen like a baseball across the street. Jake's back slams into a light pole, snapping it in half. The teen drops to the ground motionless. Damn it, Jake coughs. Looks like I'm already out of this fight. Sorry I'm so useless, Yamura. No, Yamura shouts. I cannot take over yet. I have not recovered enough energy. You have to get up. Easy for you to say. You have that Sakari durability. Us humans aren't used to getting hit that hard. I felt like I just got ran over by a freight train. You are no ordinary human. Now stop feeling sorry for yourself and buy us more time to recover. Damn, you're pushy, Jake groans. Did I break you already? Inyana says with a grin. Humans are so fragile. Jake groans, slowly crawling to his knees. Inyana is shocked to see that the boy is able to move at all. Your back should be broken, she growls. Has my pathetic brother shared some of his strength with you? Yamura? Nah, this is all me. There's no way that could keep me down. You throw like a girl. Jake coughs, his teeth stained red with blood. Inyana darts to the teen's side, kicking him in the ribs. Jake vomits blood, screaming out in agony. Mouthy little shit, Inyana growls. You're either incredibly brave or a complete idiot. She reaches down to grab him by the hair. Either way, you are still going to die. Jake pulls himself up, handfuls of his hair being torn out by the roots. Throwing his weight into a single kick, he delivers the blow directly to Inyana's nose. The Sakari curses, dropping the teen and clutching her bleeding face. You will suffer endlessly for that, Inyana hisses. Jake watches Inyana carefully, ready for anything. Blood dribbles down his scalp and into his face. Jake slides his right foot back and lowers into a fighting stance, bringing his fists up to protect his face and chest. His fighting stance is well balanced, leaving no openings for attack. To an opponent of similar skill, attacking Jake would be impossible. Inyana, however, could push past his defenses in an instant. Inyana begins to laugh. You're serious about this? I'm going to kill you. Do you understand that? There will be no mercy or pity involved. You are going to die. Nothing you can do will change that. Now put my brother back in control so we can finish our battle properly. Jake's feet glow with a faint blue light, and he springs forward, striking Inyana with a combo of left and right jabs to the face. Inyana reels back, stunned. How did he move that fast? He's just a human, Inyana wonders. She raises a hand to defend, but Jake drops low and sweeps her feet. Inyana falls back, Jake dropping an elbow down into her sternum. Impossible, she thinks, her back bouncing off the ground. He's outspeeding me! Jake pivots, kicking Inyana and sending her crashing through several large piles of rubble. No more games! Inyana screams, erupting from the rubble, surrounded by energy. Her aura flickers wildly with her agitation. I may have let my guard down because I did not expect such feats to be possible of a human, but I will not allow the insult of your presence before me as a challenger to continue. No mere human could ever be my equal. Inyana sends several crescents of wind energy at Jake. The teen does his best to evade the attacks, but Inyana moves above and unleashes a powerful energy blast in a cone down at him. The blast explodes, knocking Jake against a down section of wall. As the teen bounces off the concrete, Inyana darts into him with a gut punch that drives all of the air from his lungs. Following up with a hard left hook, Jake is planted on the ground. The teen's fingers claw at the earth as he writhes in pain and tries to sit up. You're resilient, Inyana says. I'll give you that. No human should be able to withstand all of the damage that I'm inflicting upon you. Your body should be ruined without my brother in control. I can't let him do all the work, Jake coughs. When I look back at our victory, I want to say that I contributed. Victory? Inyana laughs loudly. You're more deluded than my brother. I can't give up here, Jake thinks. I have to buy Yamura some more time. The way it stands, I don't think I've even bought him more than a minute or two to recover. I have to try harder. After everything I've been through, I can't let it end like this. He recalls his feud with Rusty in the tournament battle at the fair against Rodnovich, the grueling horrors that made his summer training, his overcoming the alternate dimension of the Book of the Black Earth and reclaiming his body from Yamura, his battles against Rapture and the parasitically enhanced mercenaries of Conco, struggling to evade the police and FBI, learning of the complicated past of his grandparents, and his brief face-off against Cedrion. These were moments that made me stronger, not Yamura. I didn't go through everything just to have to depend on someone else. I have to stop thinking about buying Yamura time. I have to believe that I can beat Inyana for real. Jake stands, surrounded by a blue, flame-like aura. The teen's hair stands on end, and sparkles of electricity-like energy dance about erratically. Inyana feels the air pressure change, and the increased energy causes her hands to tremble slightly. Looking down at her hands, the Sakari becomes outraged. How dare you? You're nothing but a human. A human could never defeat me. Jake flashes behind Inyana, leaving sparks of electricity in his path. You've been defeated by a human before. Inyana suddenly feels the effects of several body blows that she never saw thrown. What is this? How is this child putting up a better fight against me than my brother? Inyana screams, swinging with a wild backhand. Jake evades the attack and strikes her in the face with a hard right. Inyana staggers, blood exploding from her nose. Jake drives forward, hammering the Sakari with more body blows, before leaping up with a knee to the face. As Inyana is rocked back, Jake delivers another knee, this one to the gut, then hops up again to knee her in the face. Inyana falls to her back with a hard thud. Jake winces in discomfort and clutches his chest with one hand. I'm pushing my body too hard. My heart isn't used to this. My body's going to give out before I can end this fight if I'm not careful. Inyana screams, spit flying from her lips as she sits up quickly and unleashes a burst of energy from her hand. Jake sidesteps the attack, knowing he's not strong enough to withstand a direct hit from one of her energy blasts. The blue glow around Jake flickers, and he realizes that time is running out. I'm burning through all of my stamina at once. If I don't pull something big off, all this will have been for nothing. Jake runs at Inyana, and the two engage in a vicious hand-to-hand brawl. For every hit that one deflects, they receive one in return that makes contact. Blood splatters to the ground repeatedly as the two brutalize each other with punch after punch. Jake's aura shrinks more by each second that passes, and as it does, more of Inyana's blows begin to land. A devastating left hook rocks Jake's head to the side. Blood explodes from the teen's mouth, and he stumbles to the side, nearly dropping to a knee. Jake attempts to retaliate with a right hook, but Inyana catches his fist in her hand. "That was an admirable effort," Inyana says, lines of blood running from the corners of her mouth. "Maybe you should have been born a Sakari rather than a human. I could have helped mold you into an incredible warrior, had I discovered you. Sometimes fate is cruel like that." Jake is unable to pull his hand free, no matter how hard he tries. The glow around him has completely vanished. "If my brother is too cowardly to die like a warrior, I shall bestow that honor upon you in his stead. You have fought exceptionally well. You can go into the afterlife with no regrets." Jake leaps up, kicking Inyana in the side of the head and managing to free himself. The teen leaps back, holding his hand in pain. His chest heaves and he struggles to remain in control. His stamina is close to zero. Keeping up with Inyana was far too taxing on his body. "Not yet. I just have to hold out a little while longer." Inyana lunges, striking Jake in the face with an open palm strike. As the teen reels back, she delivers 4 more punches to his chest and torso, expecting to feel bones crunch beneath her fists. Inyana is surprised at how hard the teen's body is. Jake stumbles backwards, stunned. A roundhouse kick to the head drops him to the ground. Coughing up more blood, Jake crawls back up to his hands and knees. Inyana becomes enraged, kicking him into the air and leaping past him in order to deliver a backhand that drives him into the street, forming an impact crater. Black sparkles of electricity-like energy sizzle sporadically from the teen as he rolls to his stomach and tries to stand. "What are you?" Inyana growls. "No human should be able to withstand this much punishment." Jake leaps at Inyana with a punch, but she blocks it easily and drives an uppercut into his abdomen. Reaching down, Jake grabs her arm and pushes it to the side, pivoting with an elbow to Inyana's temple. The blow connects, and the Sakari becomes even more raged that the boy was able to strike her, despite being so obviously worn out. Flames surround the Sakari queen as she draws the magical elements into herself. "Aginestra! Ahura!" Inyana screams, unleashing a wall of fire at Jake. The wall is too wide and tall to evade, and Jake turns to run, dashing for cover within the nearest destroyed building. There's no roof, and only half of the wall remains standing, but Jake hopes that it will be enough to lessen the impact of Inyana's spell. The flames connect with the building and detonate in a massive explosion that sends Jake airborne, smoke trailing from his body. He hits the ground hard and coughs, blood drooling from his open mouth. "I did my best," Jake says. "I can't do any more. Every part of me hurts. I'm sorry if it wasn't enough." Yamura's avatar puts a hand on Jake's shoulder. "You did well. You bought me some time to recover. Regardless if it will be enough or not, we shall see this battle through to the end together. It is your turn now to rest." Inyana rushes, flames trailing behind her. She puts her strength into a single punch meant to smash through the teen's face. Yamura catches her fist in his hand, taking over in a flash of black light. Before his sister can respond, he drives his own fist into her jaw. Inyana is sent speeding across the street and into the remains of a downed building. Inyana erupts from the rubble, but Yamura materializes above her, connecting with an overhand smash. The blow drives Inyana back down into the rubble. The impact spreads the debris and sinks the ground into a crater. Jetting from the side, Inyana flees to gain ground and a better vantage point for attack, but is intercepted by her brother once more. "Basa Iya!" Yamura screams, unleashing black fire into Inyana. Female Sakari's momentum is set, and she is unable to move in time to evade the blast. Inyana is knocked back down to the ground, forming another impact crater. Aginestra ahura! Inyana screams, conjuring a wall of fire up at her brother. Concealed behind the flames, Inyana casts a second spell. Vai Vayanastra! An eagle made of powerful wind slams into the bottom of the fire and pushes it up at Ymura with doubled acceleration. Basaia! Voven! Ymura screams, throwing his hands down to meet the spell with a massive black energy dragon. The attacks collide in a smoldering sky inferno. Creonle! Inyana doubles her stats and outspeeds her brother as he moves to evade the spreading fires of the explosion. Inyana delivers a swift kick that sends Ymura crashing down through the side of a toppled building. Vai Vayanastra! She again chants, ripping the building apart with a wind eagle. Ymura is thrown into the air, where Inyana awaits. Inyana drops down with a two-handed smash to the back that drives Ymura deep into the earth. The Sakari Queen lands at the edge of the crater, chest heaving. That was your last gasp, brother. You had more fight left in you than I anticipated. But in the end, it was still not nearly enough. Ymura rolls to his stomach and uses a release of black flame energy through his hands to propel himself out of the crater and back towards Inyana. Ymura pivots in the air, trying to deliver a spinning heel kick, but Inyana twists to the side in evasion. Continuing his momentum, Ymura rotates and tries for a left hook, but Inyana blocks with a forearm and retaliates with two right jabs in rapid succession. As Ymura is knocked back, Inyana speeds after him and delivers another right jab to the face. Ymura's back bounces off the ground and he continues his trajectory backward. Inyana maintains pursuit, each time Ymura bouncing off the terrain. She delivers another right jab to the face and keeps him speeding back. After several times of this, Inyana finally drives the knee into her brother's chest and pivots with a kick to the face. Ymura spins around, firing a burst of black energy. Basaia! The force of Inyana's strikes and his own attack sends his back crashing through the remains of a water tower. Inyana dodges the flames and hits her brother with her own fire spell. Aginestra! Ymura fires a burst of black fire through the center of Inyana's flames to disperse them, and charges forward with a scream of desperation. The spirits of Ymura and Jake scream together, striking Inyana with such force that the earth itself seems to tremble. The Sakari Queen is sent backwards like a missile, and she struggles to roll out of the trajectory. What is this? Inyana whispers, staring at the ground, her vision shaking. Droplets of blood splatter beneath her face. Where did this strength come from? Ymura stands before her, flashes of blue energy rippling through his black flame aura. Unlike you, my host and I have learned to work together. Rather than wasting our energy in a tug of war, our common goal of defeating you has united us. Disgusting, Inyana screams, pounding her fists on the ground. You are a disgrace. Your host will always be your enemy. Given the opportunity, she will betray you to save the ones she cares most about. Ymura stares at his hands, amazed at their unified strength. You will always be only half a true being. Do not mock me. Your host is not your friend. You're as much his enemy as I am. Ymura shakes his head. To defeat you, I make the vow that I shall no longer seek the deaths of his family members. The petty revenge of single defeat pales in comparison to victory that can be achieved in besting you. You coward! You cannot defeat me, so you ally yourself with a human? How dare you call yourself a Sakari? I no longer call myself anything, Ymura says, tightening his fists. After defeating you, I will be content to fade into oblivion. Inyana screams, launching herself at Ymura with a flurry of fast punches. Ymura dodges each before delivering a single uppercut to the solar plexus. Inyana staggers back, gasping for air. Saliva drools from her gaping mouth, and her eyes are wide with terror. No! Inyana coughs, backing away as she holds her chest in pain. This is not possible. She desperately tries to reason in her mind how Ymura has managed to gain the strength of his host, despite all of the terrible things he's done in human form. Sparkles of black energy, illuminated by random pulses of blue electricity, flash around Ymura as he continues to convert all of the reserves shared by both he and Jake into their speed. Holding out, is only good if one is able to have an end strategy in mind. So rather than focusing on stamina, they intend to finish the battle as quickly as possible before both their energy runs out. Yamura knows neither how to defeat his sister or how to flee her in order to gain another opportunity later. Putting it all on the line in offensive maneuvers eliminates both the wasting of energy due to doubt and holding back for defense. Inyana sees this change come over her brother. The former general's change of strategy is apparent in both his posture and his facial temperance. Currently overwhelmed by her brother's speed, she realizes that this can only be a temporary boost and it will not last. Both of them know that this will be their final clash. There will be no running off to lick wounds or amend strategies. For these warring siblings, it's do or die. Cedrion senses the clash between Inyana and Yamura and curses with frustration. Using Shunkan Ito, his attempts to intervene were thwarted. Powerful blood magic shocks the Yazata, blasting him out of the dimensional void and depositing him back where he began, outside of the war zone. Even walking, he cannot cross the unseen barrier into the city. Damn her, Cedrion growls, placing a hand against the invisible barrier. He winces as his palm is suddenly blackened by the magic. Within the city, buildings are toppled and screams fill the air. The chaos is satisfying to the Yazata, but he knows what will come of this battle and neither outcome is desirable to him. Folding his arms, he sits down on the grass and merely waits. Soon the clash will end, and he will be left to clean up after the foolish Sakari siblings. To the Yazata, his plans for both of them are much more important than their petty familial squabble. He has waited for over 10,000 years for his plans to come together, orchestrating the overthrow of Shamashtu, and leading the Sakari to invade the earth, grooming hosts for Yamura and Inyana, and bringing them together. Everything has been too carefully planned for it to be ruined by mere grudges of the past. They must both survive if we are to achieve our goals, Cedrion thinks. Stubborn animals, he says with disgust, closing his eyes and resting, as he waits for the battle to draw to a close. Are you ready, little brother? Inyana asks. She briefly overlays the image of a youthful version of her sibling, but quickly shakes it from her mind. After all of this time, she can have no doubts. Because of the Yazata so many years ago, Yamura was spared the same fate as their father. She has seen to it that those former angelic nuisances will not be able to intervene this time. Yamura has no reprieve. This time he will die. It was always meant to end this way, do you not agree? Yamura envisions his sister how she once was when he was a youth, and still looked up to her as a role model. Inyana nods, manifesting a blade composed of wind element. From the moment our father began grooming you as his successor to the throne, I knew that I would one day be forced to kill you. Do you not see that kind of hatred is why our father could never have chosen you to lead? Yamura shouts passionately. I would have gladly relinquished my right to rule in time if I believed that you were capable of maintaining order. Allowing Marduk to control our kingdom brought the very devastation that father sought to avoid. Yamura manifests a flaming sword of the element of fire. You merely proved our father justified in his passing over of you. Inyana growls angrily, slashing at the air with her sword. As the wind blade cuts through the sky, a sonic boom erupts, and several nearby buildings are shaken to rubble due to the turbulence. We led Averno from mediocrity to greatness. Father sought alliances with petty warlords and brought shame to our honor. Marduk and I crushed the opposition and united our land. We brought back the dignity of the Sakari. You placed your boots on the throats of freedom and pressed down. Your oppression created misery and spawned endless wars. Through battle, steel is tempered and edges are sharpened. We demonstrated exactly what we are capable of to our enemies both home and abroad. Your wars robbed everyone of peace, robbed me of my very soul. Inyana laughs. Brother, I have seen you on the battlefield. I have seen the look in your eyes when your hair is matted with the blood of your victims. I have stood by and watched in awe of your glorious appetite for carnage as you laid waste to entire cities. I ask you, What soul do you speak of? I could have been someone different. A hint of sadness rings in the Sakari's voice. I could have carried on our father's vision for peace. I could have prevented war and raised a family with Eliel. Oh? Inyana grins devilishly. So that's it. It all comes down to a female. I should have guessed as much. You hate me because my attack on the castle and father resulted in your precious little Eliel's death. Inyana bares her fangs, hissing with spite. That annoying bitch was in my way, so I ordered the Yazata to kill her. Did you know that? She was more skilled in magic than I'd been aware. I suppose I'm to blame for not paying enough attention to the activities of my subordinates. She had the Yazata bound. Had she reached the throne and stopped the other one, all of my plans would have been ruined. None of us could have overcome father in battle. Not me, not Hui, not Marduk, certainly. Yes, your lovely little mate very nearly played the heroine and saved the day. Ymir growls, squeezing the hilt of his flaming sword tightly. The heat bites at his knuckles, but he can only glare at Inyana with unbridled hatred. Never before has he desired so much to kill. No, kill is not an accurate term. Ymir wishes to obliterate Inyana so completely that not even the lingering presence of her memory would remain. He would gladly dive down into the underworld and drag Inyana back to the realm of the living by her hair, just for the pleasure of killing her again. That is it, brother, Inyana smiles. That is the kind of fire that will make this interesting. As I said before, I have dreamt of this moment for 10,000 years. You cannot die too quickly and thus rob me of my satisfaction. Sliding one foot slightly behind the other, Ymir extends his fiery sword towards his sister. He focuses his energy, channeling it through the weapon until a violent spinning storm of flame vortexes around his arm. Ymir places a second hand on the weapon for stabilization. Basea Voven! Ymir screams as his aura erupts into the visage of a massive black dragon. The flames around him surge, and the dragon roars loudly, rushing upwards from his aura to strike Inyana. She scoffs. Father's ultimate technique will not defeat me. She slashes her windsword to meet the dragon and cleave it in two. You are nowhere near strong enough to wield that attack with its full potential. Inyana's weapon easily cuts through the flaming dragon, dispersing the energy with such force that shock waves ripple outwards and demolish the few remaining buildings left standing in their vicinity. Ymir drops to a knee, wincing in pain as he feels the full reverberation of his attack being destroyed. Most of the Sakari's stamina is now gone, and he struggles to stand. Did you really intend for that maneuver to be your saving throw? I'm insulted that you would believe me to be so pathetic to succumb to such weakness. Your attacks do not frighten me, brother. Nothing you could ever mass or launch against me would be strong enough to strike me down. Inyana grins, aiming her spiraling blade of wind at Ymir. You and I are not even comparable in strength. I stand above you by leagues greater than you could ever hope to bridge. Your arrogance is as predictable as ever, sister, Ymir says, still panting with exhaustion. Huh? Inyana is caught off guard by his insult. What do you mean by that? Anger boils within the former queen. She becomes infuriated by her brother's sudden and inexplicable confidence. You have burned through both of your energies. The only time you were ever able to keep up with me was while the two of you were combining your strength. Now even that reservoir has gone dry. I, unlike you, am fully aware of our vast differences in strength. I attempted as best as I could to avoid this confrontation altogether. You have always been a sheer force of nature in terms of strength and ability. Even after your hand turned against our father, my esteem for your skills never diminished. I would not have dared to ever presume that I could match your strength head-on with my own. And yet you stand here defiantly against me, refusing to yield. Why do you fight me, then, if you know you cannot win? Ymir smiles. I never claimed that I could not defeat you. I merely stated that I could not match your strength with my own, head on. To survive as I had to under your mate's oppressive and hateful regime, I honed my skills in order to not only become strong, but also be tactical. If I could not overcome seemingly insurmountable odds with my fists, I needed to change the odds to become more favorable towards myself. This is the purpose for which I learned the ability of Seal Acelair. One sure of their own superiority, such as yourself, would never think to use a technique to store up energy in order to survive fatal injuries in battle. One with your infallible confidence would never think they could be injured in such a manner. The ground begins to glow around Ymura brightly as his energy and fatigue are restored to him. Instead of converting the deaths of my victims into healing ability as I typically do, I have converted them all into pure offensive energy. All around me I have amassed a greater well that I have not yet tapped into. Ymura recalls the last time he used Seal Acelair offensively was against Rusty back in Rockland. It seemed so long ago, even for someone who was in prison for 10,000 years. What victims do you speak of? I've seen you kill no one since you used your final stored Seal Acelair reserves. Again, this is where the fundamental tactics of you and I differ, Inyana. I have had this strategy in place since the moment our battle began. The instant our eyes locked, and I knew that I would be unable to escape, I initiated the ability of Seal Caminare. Seal what? Inyana growls, uncertainty beginning to slip into her confidence. She was unaware of her brother possessing another technique. For all the years that Ymura served her as her general, she was careful to keep the eyes of her loyal upon him. Each moment that her brother progressed in strength or ability, she was made privy. The very idea that Ymura has a technique unknown to her is troubling for the queen that prides herself upon knowing all there is to know of her brother and his weaknesses. Knowing these things has been crucial in her long simmering dreams of revenge. Seal Caminare, Ymura repeats. Every life that has been lost due to our battle has been stored within a special field of energy around me. I knew that alone I could not defeat you with my own strength, just as I knew that our clashing would prove costly to the human lives around us. I have combined these truths in the only strategy I could think of that could overpower you. It will still not be enough, Inyana screams, spittle leaping from her mouth. She's enraged, barely able to remain focused in her anger. All of her thoughts converge on the annihilation of her brother and the sheer obscenity he presents at continuing to exist in her new world. Your strategy is feeble. The lives of these worthless humans could never raise you to a level that is a threat to me. Ymura does not reply, instead closing his eyes in concentration. The ground vibrates and an audible hum reaches up to them above. Small stones and debris levitate, and sparkles of electricity whip violently through the air like angry blue serpents. High up, the clouds disperse, and the blinding rays of the sun cause Inyana to shield her eyes with one hand. She uses the wind element to propel herself into the air and stay aloft, dodging the wild streaks of stray energy. I do not fear you, Inyana screams. She is unsure what to do, as her next move is crucial. Her pride tries to prevent her from doing what she can, but she believes the most intelligent action in these circumstances is stopping Ymura from finishing whatever attack it is that he plans. That is why you will lose, sister, Ymura whispers. I fear you just as I fear death. I learned Seal Acelair because I learned that I did not want to die. I learned Seal Caminare because I was not so naive to think that death was not hounding me each step that I took in life. To appease death, I continued to take lives, and to evade his icy touch, I do whatever is necessary to not be that next victim. Ymura's eyes now begin to sparkle with vibrant pulses of energy, leaking out from him like moisture. From his very pores, a mist of power slowly escapes. You do not fear me because you do not respect me nor fear death. You are so sure of your infallibility that you cannot even begin to see a scenario in which you do not prevail. Inyana quickly waves her hand through the air, fingers tracing invisible symbols of conjury. From 4 complicated spell arrays around the queen emerge beasts composed entirely of each summoned element. Inyana's mastery of spellcraft is unrivaled in all of Averno, and she intends to prove just how powerful she truly is. From the symbol of fire emerges a flaming beast, shaped as an enormous feline predator. The fire ripples from the beast's back, and it roars as embers of red light is its vision. A coiled serpent of water manifests next, twisting and undulating with waves of itself seemingly without end. The earth shakes and splits. The bestial howl echoes as from the stone and dirt is formed a primate, dwarfing the size of any bipedal animal to ever draw a breath. Lastly, from the wind comes a bird-like creature, whose wings are formed of tornadoes, and its beak is a violently spinning cyclone of narrowed focus. "You are no match for one such as I," Inyana screams. "It is true, I do not fear you, nor do I fear death. Why should I fear such annoyances? I am stronger than any force of nature, because I have control of all the forces of nature. I am the greatest sorceress of all of Averno. I am Queen Inyana. I am a goddess. You, who is nothing, can never dare to stand before me as an equal. I have given you too much false hope. You are the second-born, smaller and weaker. I shall kill you now, and prove once and for all that you were destined from birth to be inferior to me." Narain Averno, 10,300 years ago. Inyana laughs, standing over her younger sibling. No taller than 5 foot and weighing at most 100 pounds, the teenage Sakari is a headstrong and mischievous youth. "Get up," she says mockingly. "You are not fit to live in this family if you're so pathetic." "I'm sorry, sister," Ymura whispers, crawling to his small feet. The size of a human adolescent, Ymura exists in the constant shadow of his sibling. "Father has often told me that if you do not improve, he shall send you away forever to the southern jungles to live amongst the Dobitakai." "No," Ymura protests. "They devour the flesh of our own." Inyana nods. "You would be a better fit for a meal for a starving Upas than the son of a king. Not only are you weak, you are cowardly and timid. A complete disgrace in every way imaginable." Ymura is used to his sister's verbal lashings, but they continue to hurt nonetheless. "Why do you hate me, sister?" Ymura asks, looking up at his elder sibling with sorrowful eyes. Inyana scoffs, disgusted by the sight. "Because of displays such as this. You are pathetic. It angers me just to think that the same blood flows through us both." She balls her fists tightly until they lose color. "I see those same qualities in father, and I become irate. Why must I be the only member of this family that is not ruled by emotion?" "You are ruled by emotion, dear child," Shimashtu says, approaching them so silently that not even Inyana's enhanced senses were able to detect him. "However, the emotions that rule you are wild and scornful. You are too passionate and quick to anger." Inyana growls, hating any criticism. The fact that the criticism comes from the king makes no difference to her. "You are both soft. Our enemies laughed at us behind our backs. At any moment the warlords of the other territories could attack, and you would entreat with them rather than slit their throats. A ruler must rule by strength and instill fear among their rivals. Respect is an illusion. You are gullible fools." Shimashtu is quiet, merely allowing his eldest to vent for the moment. "There are many lessons that you must still learn. It may surprise you, but you are not as wise as you believe." Inyana laughs, mocking her father's rebuff. "I already know the arts of the priestesses and our complete history. Unlike Ymura, I've memorized the names of each territory's warlord, who their top 3 generals are, and the relative ground force numbers of each." "That indeed is impressive, but you still have much more to learn. Becoming a good ruler takes more than just excelling in book studies or becoming a powerful mage. or even a strong and fierce warrior. Sometimes a good ruler knows when fighting is not necessary. You are a disgrace as a king, and I am ashamed to be in your bloodline. Your sympathy and weak heart will destroy our land and lead us to be conquered by one of the neighboring regions. Because of my leadership, the warlords have no cause to violate our borders. You would bring war to our neighbors when there is cause for none. The western lands build up their strength more each day. Why else but for invasion would they do such? The only way to protect our kingdom will be to hit them first with our full might and slaughter their leaders. It is good that you are not queen then, I believe. In time, perhaps your attitudes will mature to match your physical growth. Until then, leave the ruling to me. Inyana curses, kicking the ground and causing dirt to fly up into the air. In her tantrum, she backhands Ymura, who tries to console her. You're just like him, she screams, striking her brother again. You do not know the right thing to do and instead follow your foolish heart. I refuse to be controlled by a fleshy mass of cells. I make my own decisions and choose my own path. You shall see. I shall rule over this world, and all beings will tremble in fear at the sounding of my name. When my voice is heard, the world will fall prostrate in worship. Father believes that he can teach me how to be a ruler. I shall show him what it's like to be a god. Totikahatchee, Florida, September 8, 1998. Inyana's chest heaves with overexertion, and she salivates like a crazed animal. The stress of the battle and the painful flooding of memories work her mind furiously. She tries to remain focused on Ymura and her desire to kill him, but she cannot help but to be bombarded by the memories of her children and Marduk. Thinking of the time she has lost, she cannot contain the grief. Each second, her hatred for Ymura grows stronger. The power of Seal Kaminare swells around Ymura, filling every ounce of his being with energy. He feels as though he could lift mountains, blow away entire oceans, even punch the very sun itself, blanketing oneself in protection against death. The ability of Seal Acelare could be seen as an ultimate defensive maneuver. So long as Ymura has trained and conditioned his body to survive even the deadliest of onslaughts, Seal Acelare would be able to essentially act as a redo, restoring the Sakari to a previously fit physical state. Opposite this ability, Seal Kaminare would then become Ymura's ultimate offense. Rather than direct the stored energy towards healing, it can be utilized as a raw, destructive force. All sound vanishes, and time slows for Ymura. The clarity of his thought becomes unlike anything he's ever before experienced. He could count each pebble on the ravaged street. He could listen to the songs of birds miles away, or the sounds of waves crashing against the beach. Ymura can see the burning embers of 1,000 human hearts, standing at the very edge of the terror, wondering when it will all be over. The ground disintegrates beneath Ymura, leaving only a black pit seemingly without end. He does not remember making the decision to jump, but already he is nearly face to face with Inyana's elemental beasts. The creatures are motionless, seemingly frozen in time, when in fact they are moving at an accelerated speed. Ymura's speed now dwarfs anything the laws of physics could dream up. The feline composed of fire is the first to meet Ymura's fist, and the first to explode back into its component elements. Just above the feline, the serpent of water hovers. Ymura's fist shatters through the creature, as it too seems motionless against his speed. Next to explode into dust and rock is the ape composed of earth. Ymura can see his sister just beyond the final elemental beast of air. Inyana remains with her arms outstretched, frozen in mid-sentence. To her perception, Ymura has not yet even moved. Before her words can finish, she will already have met the full brunt of her brother's ultimate offensive maneuver. The elemental of air explodes, and Inyana's perception finally registers the demise of her beasts. The very instant Ymura's fist is driven into her abdomen. The collision radiates outwards in a blinding light. Anything that was still standing for miles sinks into a several 100-foot deep crater. Inyana feels her very essence driven out by the punch as space and time bends all around her. Sent flying, she cannot catch her breath. The air moves by her too quickly. Her eyes cannot open against the wind resistance. Inyana's very skin begins to separate from bone, while bone separates into its organic protein components. All of Ymura's strength very simply punches Inyana out of existence. Ymura falls out of the sky, crashing onto the edge of a massive crater. Every muscle of his body is pushed past their limits, and darkness begins to rapidly overtake him. He is aware that they will be vulnerable to the humans out here in the open, but he cannot make his body move to do anything about it. Coughing catches his attention just at the very second he is about to slip into unconsciousness. Inyana staggers towards him, her body ravaged by the intense speeds and air pressure. The bones within her that were nearly atomized have somehow healed. How? Is all Ymura is able to whisper. Your assessment of me may have been accurate once upon a time. My years among the humans have, however, taught me a great many things. Among them, mortality, she says, lifting the tatters of her shirt to reveal several black tattoos that Ymura instantly recognizes. A cold feeling of despair fills this former general. I have felt the deaths of acolytes linked to me through my very blood. I have suffered the sadness and grief their passing creates. I too have lost. In my time here on Earth, I have lost 2 of my human hosts very painfully. I have felt their deaths. The shores of the great rivers beyond were visible to me, yet I endured. You say that only a warrior that knows that defeat is possible is capable of utilizing Seal Acelair. Inyana grins, her teeth stained red with blood. She releases another tattoo, recovering the damage left over after healing her other wounds. She is now rejuvenated and given a fresh start. I will have to thank those human police officers for teaching me that very lesson, well before you ever attempted to convey it to me. She cannot be stopped, Ymura thinks with shame, his consciousness slipping. I threw everything I had at her, but it was still not enough. Ymura, you've got to hang on, Jake shouts. You're the only one that can stop her. I'm dead meat if I have to go up against Inyana alone. I'm sorry, Ymura whispers, genuine regret in his voice. I truly wish there was more that I could do. I was a fool to think that I could ever best my sister. Don't you dare give up. We can't let her win. It's not a matter of letting her win, Ymura snaps, becoming angry. His anger prevents his mind from fading for the moment. We have no say in whether or not she wins. We can do nothing to affect the outcome of that battle. I knew this as truth before, but deluded myself into thinking that together we stood a chance. Jake, you must accept that our journey ends right here at this moment. I can't believe that Ymura, the scary Sakari general of legend, is giving up. Every foe you've ever defeated was robbed justice in their deaths at your hands. You have no honor. You're just a coward that's scared of his bully sister. So Inyana used to be mean to you. Big deal. Get over it. You have come so much farther than her. Inyana's eyes are still fixated on the past and what was done to her. Get off your ass and look towards the future. There is no future because of Inyana. Please, it will be easier if you just accept our fate. Damn you! Jake screams, punching Ymura in the face. The Sakari stares at the team with disbelief. If you won't fight her with our power, then give me whatever you have left, and I'll fight her. Even if we die knowing we fought to the end. You are prepared to face your own mother. I know that she isn't my mother, not anymore. Inyana stole her from me. I'm going to make her regret that. Your sister thinks she's felt the pain of losing loved ones? Jake's spirit glows with renewed vigor. I'm going to show this bitch just how clueless she is. Jake takes over in a flash of light, instantly rushing Inyana with a flurry of fast strikes. The Sakari sidesteps his assault, bringing her knee up to his chest. The teen twists to the opposite side, lightening the blow as much as possible. Pain grows in Jake's chest, but he tries his best to ignore it. The Sakari Queen pursues, striking Jake with a hard right, followed by several jabs to the chest. Blood sprays from the teen's mouth as he's staggered backward. He tries to fight back, but Inyana blocks his punch and delivers an elbow to the face. As Jake drops, Inyana hooks his arm and tosses the teen over her back. Jake hits the ground hard, but has no time to recover as Inyana immediately drives her full weight into him with both feet to his chest. He screams out in agony, blood and saliva spraying from his lips. Lifting Jake up by the hair, Inyana bats him around with several fast strikes to the face. "I do not want you," she growls. "Put my brother back in control." Jake tries to smile, his face a ruined and bloody mess. "Sorry, I'm taking my turn right now." Inyana hisses, hurling Jake aside. The teen bounces off the ground and skids to a stop amidst the ruins of a destroyed building. "I cannot take my revenge against you," Inyana shouts. "Yamura, you coward! Come out and face me!" Jake crawls to his feet, swaying and barely able to stand. He raises his fists, readying himself for the continued fight. Seeing the boy's stubbornness, Inyana curses with rage and launches herself forward. Jake doubles over, the air driven from his lungs. Inyana slowly withdraws her arm from the teen's chest, delivers a fast combo of jabs to the face. "Yamura!" she screams as Jake collapses, motionless. "Stop forcing this human to bear the punishment that you alone deserve." "You know, it's rude," Jake coughs, posting his hands and lifting his face from the ground, "to ignore someone who's reserved this time slot." "Stay down!" Inyana shouts, releasing a pulse of energy from her hand into the teen. The blast hits Jake like a sack of bricks, nearly blacking him out. "You're going to have to kill me," Jake coughs. "Yamura has you tuned out." Inyana knocks him back down with another pulse blast. "This is not your battle, child. My quarrel is with Yamura." "You're wearing my mother like a cheap suit, and you say this isn't my battle?" "Stupid boy," Inyana growls. "Your mother is gone, erased from existence. Nothing of her remains but this body." "There's no way you completely erased her. My mother's will is too strong to be dominated by you." "Poor thing," Inyana mocks. "Do you really believe that? I am sorry to crush the powerful image that you have of dear mommy, but she gave in to me easily." "You're lying," Jake says, forcing himself to his feet, despite overwhelming pain. "My mother would never give up." Inyana begins to laugh. "She cowered in fear and begged to make the pain stop." "Mom, you have to fight her. I know you're strong enough to resist. I resisted Yamura, and you can do the same thing," Jake screams. Inyana closes the distance between them, grabbing Jake's face in her hands. She stares into the teen's eyes, expecting to see them in fright. Instead, she sees only defiance. "She is gone forever," Inyana repeats. "You cannot bring her back." "Shut up, you hag!" Jake screams, spittle flying into her face. "Mom, you have to fight her!" Inyana growls, digging her claws into Jake's face until he is consumed by agonizing pain. Blood steadily drips to the ground from the puncture wounds. "I have had enough of you," she strains, pressing her nails further into Jake's flesh. "And," Gerald shouts from behind, having finally caught up to their battle. With all of the explosions and debris strewn about, it wasn't easy to reach them. "You have to fight her!" Inyana spins, tossing Jake aside. "You again? Disgusting vermin! Why can I not be rid of you?" "Fight back," Jake whispers, lifting his head from the ground. "I know you can." "Resist her, Anne. Don't let her control you." You have to fight her, Gerald shouts, summoning the wind element into her hands. Inyana focuses it into a violently spinning current that sharpens into blades. She swings her right arm horizontally, the gust knocking Gerald to his back. Inyana approaches Jake, lowering her hands down towards him. If my brother chooses to die a coward, I shall grant his wish. I tire of playing with you humans. Don't do this, Mom. You have to stop her, Jake whispers, barely conscious. His wounds have taken a toll on him, and fatigue causes every muscle to feel like it's about to explode. Inyana pauses, mere inches from Jake's chest. The veins in her neck bulge, and she strains to move. What? Inyana whispers through gritted teeth. Jake stares up with disbelief. A thin smile cracks across his bloodied lips. Take control, Mom. I know you can do it. Jake, Anne whispers. I'm sorry. Inyana's aura erupts into a brilliant lavender flame. Her hair stands on end and the Sakari screams, trying to suppress her host's persona. I can't fight her, Anne says. She's too strong. Yes, you can. Don't give up. I love you, Anne strains, her fight against Inyana being lost. Make a life for yourself. You'll do great things. Mom? Jake's eyes tear up, but he's unable to help. This is one battle that only Anne can fight. Gerald stands back up, staggering towards them. Dad, protect Jake and Mom. Anne tells her father, who is now also in tears. They both seem to find trouble wherever they go. Enough! Inyana screams, using all of her strength to suppress Anne's consciousness. She again moves to kill Jake, but her arms have a different idea. Inyana screams in horrified protest as Anne directs her arms into her own abdomen. The concentrated wind tears through flesh and internal organs. Blood pours from the Sakari's mouth in thick waves. The winds cease, and she collapses, a massive hole torn through her body. Inyana holds up her hands and is speechless at how much blood she sees. She finds it hard to believe that there is no pain, just a strange wet pressure. Her thoughts are jumbled, and she randomly finds herself thinking about going hunting with her father as a child. She can no longer think of the battle, forgetting Yamura is even there. Gruesome sounds of splattering catch her attention. She looks down to see her fluid spilling out and collecting in a heap of gore between her feet. All she can think is, that doesn't seem right. Those belong on the inside. Mother! Jake screams, trying to run to her. Gerald holds him back, both of them in tears. Mother? Inyana thinks. Who is that boy? I'm not his mother. She recalls her own offspring, Edior, Salah, and Mizrain. Too late. The Sakari clears her thoughts and finally recalls the battle. Death has already begun to claim her, pulling her consciousness further into darkness. Inyana tries to release her remaining Seal Acilaire strength, but curses in tears as she sees that her host's attack has ripped through her torso and destroyed the tattoos stored just below her ribcage. The magic has been destroyed, and the damage is irreparable. This cannot be how it ends, Inyana coughs, drilling blood all down her front. This was supposed to be my revenge. She drops to her knees, no longer able to stand. Yamura, she coughs. Damn you! Inyana's vision becomes blurry and she fights to remain consciousness. I refuse. I refuse to die like this. I am a queen. She collapses, lying motionless atop her own spilt blood. The spirit of the Sakari Inyana departs from the body of Anne Stewart. The dying body has rejected her, and her soul is too weak to fight back. For the mighty Inyana, this is the end. A lake of blood swells out around Anne's form. Mom? Jake whispers, tears in his eyes. Mom. Please, Mom, wake up. Anne opens her eyes, trying to form a weak smile. Blood runs from the woman's lips. I'm glad you're safe. I couldn't let her kill you. Imura can tell the woman's spirit is breaking free from her ruined body even as they speak. Despite this, he allows the two humans their moment. It would be unforgivable for him to take this moment away from Jake, not when they are going to need to continue cooperating, moving forward. It's going to be okay, Mom, Jake cries. We'll get you to a hospital. Just hang on. Jake, Gerald whispers. He knows the truth, but cannot bring himself to say any more. Jake tries to laugh through his tears. Stop talking like you're going somewhere, Mom. We're all getting out of this. And Yana's gone. It's okay, Jake. Anne finally smiles. Her eyes seem distant, like she can now see things the others cannot. I can be with your father now. He can wait, Jake cries out. I need you here. You can't leave. Anne says no more, her eyes still staring off at something unseen. The woman's smile lingers, despite her condition. Her skin becomes cold and pale, and it's obvious to even Jake that his mother's soul has already departed from their presence. Jake screams in anguish. Gerald's head drops forward in defeat, tears collecting beneath him in a puddle. The seconds become painfully long, but Gerald finally finds his own will and guides his grandson to his feet. Come on, Gerald says, tears still in his own eyes. We can't stay here. Do you want to be arrested again? What does it matter? Jake cries. Both of my parents are gone. Why should I keep going on? If not for yourself, keep fighting for the families of the people who were hurt by Inyana, Gerald says. How many people lost their loved ones because of her? What meaning did their deaths have if your mother gave her life to save you, just for you to go and throw that away? Make her sacrifice count for something. Don't ever let another monster like Inyana do this to innocent people ever again. What the hell can I do? Jake whispers. I'm nobody. You're the only person alive that's become possessed by a foreign spirit and managed to maintain and control. That has to mean something. He's not wrong, Imura finally says. We still have unfinished business together. Somewhere out there, Hui's spirit remains. We must find and destroy his container before he too is revived. And Cedrion, Jake whispers. We still have to make those Yazata pay for what they've done. Imura nods. You are not allowed to die until we have completed our vow. Our vow? You and I vowed to kill Hui together, and the Yazata. Are you trying to back out of that agreement? No. Jake tries to find strength from deep within. Hui is just as capable of destroying another city like this, isn't he? He is. Will you allow that? The city becomes cordoned off and a state of emergency is declared. Terrorism is ruled the official statement by government officials, despite numerous witnesses claiming to have seen two fighters engaged in such furious combat that they caused all of the destruction. The witnesses are attacked and discredited by the media, and the narrative of a vile terrorist attack sticks. Despite this, footage begins to leak from private videographers within the city of the final battle between the two Sakari siblings. Not everyone is so quick to buy into the narrative being forced. Pro-life Christians, neo-Nazis, Russians, Iranians, and even Cuban nationalist movement are brought forward as the culprits by the mass media and the government spin machines. Yet none of these explanations can account for the footage of the two Sakari flying above the city and firing off blasts of fire at each other. A widespread media blackout of the footage is instituted, calling it fake and dangerous. Secretly, the body of Anne Stewart is taken away and kept in isolation. Government officials begin brainstorming, questioning the nature of the deceased woman. How could she have done the things that were seen? By all accounts, she is completely human. A monument to the memory of the 1,400 people confirmed killed in the city of Totikahachi is proposed. Another 830 are still missing and presumed dead. The manhunt for Jake Stewart is removed from the public spotlight without question. Until the nature of his powers can be determined, it's thought best that confrontation with him is unwise. Because of this, Jake is given the first break in his life since becoming stricken with the spirit of Yamura. No longer does the teen have to hide. No longer does his every action depend on carefully weighing whether said action will bring the police upon him. In all honesty, the police are too frightened to come after him until the authorities can determine how to deal with his inhuman abilities. The very public battle between Yamura and Inyana has changed much of the public's opinions on the existence of non-human beings and the danger they pose, despite the media's attempts at labeling it fake. The demand from the people for answers becomes impossible for the government to ignore. Congressional hearings are scheduled in the coming weeks to try and get the people the answers they desire, but without knowing the answers themselves, it will be a daunting task. Jake leaves his grandparents, setting off on his next journey. Having recovered his belongings from the neighbor's yard, he has his mind made up. "Why are you leaving?" Lydia asks. "The investigation against you has been quietly swept under the rug while they try to make sense of the two people slugging it out like a couple of titans. You could stay here a while." "I wish I could, but there are things that I still have to do. There's still one more Sakari in this world. I have to stop him from getting a human host." "You be careful, and remember to ask us for help," Gerald says, hugging Jake. The teen nods. "I'll be alright. I won't be alone." Gerald gives his grandson a sideways glance. "You aren't talking about Yamura, are you?" Jake laughs. "I think we've finally come to an understanding. He isn't good by any means, but is anyone? We're both doing our best to try and get by in this world. If I have to be forced to share the same body with him, we might as well be working together to get rid of the things out there far worse than him." "Inyana is dead," Gerald whispers. "What are you referring to? You wouldn't be trying to go up against one of the devils, would you?" Jake shakes his head adamantly. "If devils are even close to the Yazata in power, we have a long way to go. I'm setting my sights on something a little more reasonable. There's still one more Sakari out there trapped in an amulet. If I can track the location of Hui down and destroy his container before he ever gets a human vessel, we can avoid another nightmare scenario like what happened here." "You need to rest," Gerald warns. "You can barely keep your eyes open after the beating you took." Jake laughs, but it's painful. "Oh, I'm not going after him right away. I don't think I'd last 5 seconds in my condition. It's going to take some time for my body to recover, and for me to track down where Hui is keeping himself hid. I know it has to be somewhere here in Florida. We've ran into acolytes of his before. I'll do what I can and make some contact with the resources I have to try and narrow your list down," Gerald says. "I'm sure someone's heard of this Hui before." Jake nods. "That would be a great help, thanks." He closes his eyes. It's the most comforting feeling he's ever experienced. Both Jake and Yamura have grown from this difficult battle, and the mistakes they made against Inyana, they vow not to repeat. Determined to stop Hui before he can begin his own rampage, their hatred of each other has lessened. They now realize that working together they are strong enough to accomplish the impossible. Together, they will remove the last Sakari from the world.